Hello and welcome to this week's live weekly warm-up. We have another fun one where I'm going to be sharing one of the exercises from the Next Generation Clarinet Method. If you don't know by now, the Next Generation Clarinet Method is a book, a method book that I put together. Just recently I finished up version 2, which is very new and exciting, has tons of additions, tons of revisions, and I'm really excited about this new version of it that's really going to help a lot of people take their clarinet playing to the next level. And just like the book will, this video I hope will too, by sharing a great warm-up exercise. This one's kind of fun as well because it's one that I've actually done before, but I wanted to revisit it and sort of go a little bit more in depth with exactly how to do it, because with warm-ups it's really so important. It's really all about how you do things rather than so much about what you're doing. So even though we've done the what of this exercise more or less before, we're going to go a little bit more in depth with how to do it and how to get the most out of it. So the exercise that we are going to be doing is the Christmas tree long tones. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, there is a link to the original Christmas tree that sort of goes over exactly how the notes go for this exercise and what notes we'll be playing. Today we're actually going to do it on slightly different notes, but it's the same exact idea. So the Christmas tree long tones, just for a quick review, it's basically a chromatic scale, but what you're going to do is start on one note, go up to the next note in the chromatic scale, back to the first note, up to the next note, back to the first note. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, I think I can share my screen. I haven't tried this on the live stream yet before, but I just pulled it up. Hopefully you can see it. This is the page from the Next Generation Clarinet Method book, and this has the actual exercise that we are going to be doing, which is going to be starting on C. So the original video, which you can get the link to in the description, starts on low E and sort of goes up the chromatic scale. This one's going to start on C, go up, and then back down to C, and then up to D, back down to C, D sharp, back down to C, so on and so forth for about an octave. So the thing that I want to really get out of this isn't so much about like where we're going with the notes, because again, what we do isn't as important on a warm-up as how we do it. So I'm going to demonstrate it, and I'm sort of going to be talking out loud, talking through my thought process on what I want to get out of this exercise, and hopefully that'll help you to sort of maybe see some new perspectives on how you should be looking at your long tones in your warm-up. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, and the very first thing that I'm thinking about is just getting my embouchure really nice and set and getting my air going so that I'm having my very, very best sound that I can right from the very beginning of the first note. So let's give that a try. I think that was an okay start. It was maybe a little bit accented. I might want a little bit more gentle beginning, so let me try that. That C sharp is super airy, which is to be expected, but let's see what I can do to get like exactly the same sound in a perfectly smooth transition between. So that one was better. What I did differently is I thought about bringing the clarinet up a little bit more, supporting in more from the corners, and doing everything I can to like really focus the air on that C sharp. So you can see on that, I was really sort of focusing on being smooth between the transitions between notes, making sure that the connection was really there, and making sure that nothing was too abrupt with the transition. Like the D down to C, I sort of like popped that finger down kind of hard. I think I wanted that to be a little bit smoother and not have any bump in the sound. Same thing with going up to the E flat. Whenever we have the notes that are sort of using like the side holes or the keys, they tend to be a little less resonant. So doing everything we can to match the resonance on that. I also see Helen commented that the video is kind of sporadic on YouTube, it looks like. Hopefully it's okay other places. Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can do about that, unfortunately, but hopefully the replay will be better. Anyways, continuing on with the exercise, so I made it up to D sharp, so now I'll go on to E, thinking about exactly the same things. I'm sort of starting to get warmed up a little bit now, so keeping the sound going, getting the sound better each time I play that C, really anchoring into that great tone on that, and then matching it to everything else. And as we start to get into these bigger intervals, it becomes more challenging to match the tone, especially as we get into these sort of throat tones where the C is just like such a beautiful resonant note, and then these other ones are not so much. So that's where the challenge in this is to really continue matching, do everything we can on those throat tones to make it sound as good as the C. And that's how this exercise will allow us to have even tone and even transitions between all of our notes. So I'm going to keep doing it and like really going for that. So a couple things to notice that I just did in that. When I needed to take a breath, I took the breath sort of in the middle of the note. So I was on the A, then I took a breath, and then I continued on the A, rather than going from the A and then breathing and then going down to the C, so that I could keep that all really steady. Zoe Clarinet on Instagram just asked that if I'm doing a tuner with this, and that's a really good question. This is a great exercise to do with a tuner. I'm not currently doing it with a tuner because I have like my phone, which is normally my tuner, doing the video, but this is a great exercise to do with a tuner. I highly encourage doing it with a tuner. The one thing to be careful with the tuner is that you don't rely too much on it or don't focus too much on it. The first step is all about the sound quality, and then we can use the tuner to sort of get that intonation later, but we want the sound quality first, and then we want to get in tune with that great sound quality as well. So tuner is a great idea. I'm not currently using it, but it's a really good idea. And then Helen said that she's having the same issues on Facebook, and it may definitely be your internet. It doesn't seem like anybody else is having issues, hopefully. So we will, hopefully the replay will work for you, Helen. But I'm glad you're here. This is a really good exercise, and I think everybody will get a lot out of it. So now we made it up to the B flat. I was actually really happy with how the throat tones went today. It was nice. It's a good throat tone read. The support was there to make it all come out smoothly. And I had that chance to sort of build up to it. So now we're going to get into like the last couple notes of this exercise where it gets a little challenging, crossing the break up into the high B and the high C. So let's see how that goes. So that was pretty smooth. A couple things that I'm thinking about are keeping my fingers really close to the keys. So when I go from like the C to the D and the C to C, it's right there, right in position, and the fingers don't cause an issue and cause a break. The other thing is to think about just keeping everything as steady and well supported as possible and not worrying too much about it. One thing that sometimes happens, which can actually be really beneficial on this, is the higher notes don't come out nearly as loud, but if you can get them coming out and keep that clear sound, that's what really counts. So you might have something like this. Where it's a pretty smooth transition, but the upper register is just much, much softer. And that's okay. All that means is you need to just put in a little bit more air support on the lower note as well, and that'll actually help the tone of the lower note. But then really think about blowing through that connection over the register break, and that will really help you to get that smoothness in there. So just to recap some of the big ideas that I was focusing on as playing this, always, 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 always getting the very best sound that I can, sort of experimenting with the air and the embouchure pressure and even the tongue position a little bit to like sort of narrow in that very best sound, and then transitioning that sound smoothly from note to note, getting all of the connections going really well, and then finally just making sure that there's not anything that goes awry with that as we go through. Really taking the time to like set the note, think about the transition, make sure that the fingers execute the transitions really well. Nothing's too harsh, nothing's too legato and bending the things in between. So just making sure that it's always the very best sound, the very best transitions. I always like to say that long tones are musically so simple that you should be able to play them just about as good as any professional clarinetist, because it's just simple notes. Like your fingers aren't the issue, like you know how to play these notes. Now it's just a matter of taking the time, experimenting, working with it to get your very, very best clear, full, focused sound on everything. So I hope that was helpful. This was a little bit more of an in-depth look on really how to do this, what I'm thinking as I'm actually going through the whole exercise. If you liked this kind of revisited, more in-depth look, let me know in the comments below. And as always, feel free to ask any questions that you have about this in the comments below. And finally, if you want a method that sort of goes through all of this kind of stuff and really goes super in-depth with how to get the very best out of your clarinet playing and has step-by-step plans for like exactly what exercises to practice and what to focus on with them, then be sure to check out the Next Generation Clarinet Method that I have put together. You can get all of the information about that at www.quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, the link to that is in the description as well. And I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free to leave any questions, and good luck working on your long tones like this week. And I'll see you next week for the next live weekly warm-up.